already moved it, my mother said, her voice sharp but controlled. She won't even notice right now. The hospital monitor beeped steadily beside my bed. I kept my eyes closed, my breath shallow, my hands clenched tight under the thin white blanket. The pain medication made everything feel distant and foggy, but my mother's words cut through the haze with perfect clarity. She was standing 3 feet away from me, talking on her phone about my emergency fund like it was loose change she found in a coat pocket. "The transfer went through this morning," she continued quietly. "I have access to the account." She gave me the login when they admitted her. My chest tightened. Not from the surgery pain. From something else entirely. Understanding. The money was already gone. I heard a confirmation tone from her phone. That tiny electronic beep. That sound would stay with me longer than any physical pain from the operation. Through my barely open eyelids, I could see her standing by the window, her back to me, phone pressed to her ear. My father was somewhere down the hall, probably getting coffee. They thought I was asleep, unconscious from the medication. They had no idea I could hear everything. My name is Brianna Scott. I'm 29 years old. 3 days ago, I had emergency surgery for a ruptured appendix. The infection had spread faster than the doctors expected, and they said I was lucky I came in when I did. Another few hours and things could have been much worse. While my body was barely strong enough to sit up without help, while I was connected to tubes and monitors and pumps pushing antibiotics through my veins, my parents had decided that my savings were theirs to manage. That emergency fund represented 6 years of my life. 6 years of saying no to expensive dinners, no to spontaneous trips, no to the designer clothes my friends bought without thinking. Every bonus from work, every birthday check from relatives, every tax refund, it all went into that account. I had one rule about it. Never touch it unless my life actually depended on it. I gave my mother temporary access when they admitted me to the hospital, just in case something happened to me during surgery. Just so someone could handle my bills if I couldn't. That was 2 days ago. She had taken the money in less than 48 hours. My throat was too dry to speak even if I wanted to. The morphine made my tongue feel thick and useless. But I could move my hand enough to reach the phone on my bedside table. My mother was still by the window, her voice dropping to a whisper. "No, she's out cold. We have at least a few more days before she's alert enough to check." Few more days. They were buying time, planning something. With shaking fingers, I unlocked my phone and opened my banking app. The screen was too bright, making my eyes water, but I forced myself to focus on the numbers. My emergency fund account loaded slowly. The little spinning circle seemed to take forever. Then the balance appeared. $347. I blinked, certain I was seeing wrong. Certain the medication was making me hallucinate. That account should have had just over $18,000 in it. $18,263 to be exact. I knew because I checked it every Sunday morning like clockwork. I refreshed the page. The number didn't change. $347. This wasn't an emergency withdrawal. This was everything. They had taken almost everything. The next morning, my mother brought me breakfast from the cafeteria. Oatmeal and orange juice. She sat in the chair beside my bed, smiling, asking how I felt. "Better," I managed to say. My voice was rough, weak. "Good," she said, patting my hand. "You scared us. We thought we might lose you." My father arrived a few minutes later with flowers. Cheap ones from the hospital gift shop, still wrapped in cellophane. He set them on the windowsill and kissed my forehead. "How's our girl?" he asked. "Recovering," I said. They stayed for an hour making small talk, updating me on messages from friends and coworkers. Neither of them mentioned my bank account. Neither of them said a word about the transfer. When they finally left, promising to return that evening, I lay there staring at the ceiling, thinking about that balance. $347. The morphine button was within reach, but I didn't press it. I needed my head clear now. I needed to understand what had happened and why. But more than that, I needed to figure out what to do next. Because the people I trusted most in the world had just proven they couldn't be trusted at all. That afternoon my mother returned alone. She brought magazines and acted cheerful, but I could see tension in her shoulders. She kept glancing at her phone. "Mom," I said carefully, "did you need to use my account for anything?" Her expression didn't change, but her hand tightened slightly on the magazine she was holding. "Just some transfers," she said lightly. "For stability. Medical bills are expensive, honey. We wanted to make sure everything was covered." Stability. The word hung in the air between us. "What transfers?" I asked. "Don't worry about it now," she said quickly. "You need to focus on healing. Your father and I are handling the financial things." She reached over and adjusted my blanket, tucking it around me like I was a child. "That's what parents do. We take care of things when you can't." I wanted to ask more questions. I wanted to demand exact numbers and explanations. But something in her tone made me stop. Something that told me pushing right now would make things worse. So I nodded. "Okay." She smiled, relieved. "Good girl. Now rest." After she left, I lay there thinking about that word again. Stability. Stability for who? The next day, I overheard the truth completely by accident. My father had left my room to take a phone call in the hallway. He thought the door was fully closed, but it had caught on the frame, leaving a gap about 2 inches wide. His voice carried clearly into my room. "We can cover the payment now," he said. "Brianna's fund was enough for the down payment and the first 3 months. No, she doesn't know yet. We'll tell her when she's stronger." Another pause, longer this time. "It's a great opportunity. The business broker said this kind of thing doesn't come up often. We had to move fast." My stomach dropped. Business broker. Down payment. First 3 months. They hadn't used my emergency fund for medical bills. They hadn't used it for stability or to cover hospital costs or anything related to my health. They had used it to buy something. Some kind of business opportunity they didn't want to miss. When my father came back into the room, I pretended to be asleep. He sat in the chair and scrolled through his phone for 20 minutes before my mother arrived to relieve him. Neither of them had any idea I knew. I didn't confront them. Not that day or the next. I just watched and listened and stayed quiet. They mistook my silence for weakness. For compliance. They thought the medication and the pain were keeping me too distracted to notice or care about anything beyond my immediate physical state. But I was paying attention to everything now. Every word they said. Every phone call they took outside my room. Every time they exchanged glances when they thought I wasn't looking. I started keeping notes on my phone. Times, dates, pieces of conversations I overheard. I didn't know what I would do with the information yet. I just knew I needed to document everything while it was fresh. The nursing staff commented on how alert I was becoming. "Most patients are much groggier after this kind of surgery," one nurse said while checking my vitals. "You're recovering remarkably well." I knew why. Anger is a powerful motivator. It burns through fog and pain better than any medicine. My parents visited twice a day like clockwork. They brought food and magazines and updates from my apartment. They acted like nothing was wrong. And I let them. By day 5 I could sit up without help. By day 6 I was walking to the bathroom on my own. By day 7 the doctor said I could probably go home the next day if my blood work looked good. My parents seemed surprised by how quickly I was recovering. "Are you sure you're ready?" my mother asked when the doctor mentioned discharge. "You're still so weak." "I'm fine," I said. "I want to sleep in my own bed." "Maybe you should stay with us for a few days," my father suggested. "Just until you're steadier." I shook my head. "I'll be okay at my apartment." They exchanged a look. It lasted only a second, but I caught it. They didn't want me going home yet. They wanted me dependent and distracted for longer. Their plan had assumed I would be weak for weeks, not days. They thought they would have more time before I was alert enough to check my accounts or ask difficult questions. But my body had other ideas. The infection cleared faster than expected. The incision healed cleanly. My strength came back quickly. fueled by something they didn't understand. Determination. I was released the next morning with prescriptions and follow-up appointments and instructions to rest. My father drove me home while my mother followed in her car. Word spread quickly through my family that I had been hospitalized. By the time I got home, my phone was full of messages from aunts, uncles, and cousins checking on me. My mother had apparently been keeping everyone updated throughout. I read through her messages in the family group chat, seeing her version of events unfold. Brianna is doing better, thank you for asking. She's been so strong through all of this. The doctors say she'll make a full recovery. We're so grateful. She agreed to let us handle some financial things while she recovers. Such a relief for her not to worry about that right now. Agreed. That word stuck out like a thorn. Several relatives had responded with messages of support. So glad she has you two to help. That's what family is for. She's lucky to have parents who can step in. No one asked me directly if I had agreed. No one thought to verify her version of the story. They just accepted it as truth because she said it with confidence. I didn't correct the narrative. Not yet. I just saved screenshots of every message, every conversation, every time she positioned herself as the capable parent managing her helpless daughter's crisis. I let the story stand exactly as she told it. Alone in my apartment for the first time in over a week, I logged into my bank account on my laptop. I downloaded statements going back 6 months. I created a folder on my desktop and started organizing everything. Transfer dates, amounts, destinations. The emergency fund had been emptied in 3 separate transfers over 2 days. The first one happened the morning after my surgery, while I was still in the ICU. $17,000 moved to an account I didn't recognize. The second transfer happened the next day. $800 to my parents' joint checking account. The third was smaller. $216 to the same unknown account as the first transfer. I searched for the account number and found it listed on my father's business documents from a folder he had asked me to hold for him months ago. It was a new business account, created 3 weeks before my surgery. 3 weeks. They had been planning this before I even got sick. The emergency hadn't created the opportunity. It had just made it easier to execute. I saved everything. Screenshots, PDFs, printed copies. No emotions attached. Just facts, dates, numbers. Patterns appeared quickly when you looked without anger clouding your vision. After a week at home, I called my mother. My voice was steady, calm, completely controlled. "Hey Mom," I said. I was looking at my bank account. I noticed the transfers. "When will that money be returned?" There was a pause on her end. Just a brief hesitation before she laughed it off. "Oh honey, don't worry about that right now. You're still recovering. I'm recovered enough to manage my own finances," I said evenly. "When will the money be returned to my account?" "We'll talk about it when you're feeling better," she said, her tone shifting slightly, becoming firmer. "This isn't something to stress about right now." "I'm not stressed," I replied. "I'm just asking when I can expect the money back." "Brianna." Her voice had that edge now, the one she used when she wanted to end a conversation. "Your father and I made some important decisions for the family. We'll explain everything when the time is right." "What decisions?" "Yes. Adult decisions," she said. "You wouldn't understand the full picture yet. Just trust us." She ended the call shortly after, saying she had an appointment. I sat there looking at my phone, thinking about her final words. Just trust us. She genuinely believed this would fade. That I would let it go, move on, accept whatever explanation they eventually offered. The next day, I logged into my banking app and removed both of my parents from my account access. No warning. No explanation. I just changed my password, removed them as authorized users, and updated my security settings. The app confirmed the changes immediately. They no longer had any connection to my accounts. My mother noticed within hours. She called me that afternoon, her voice tight. "Brianna, I'm trying to check something on your account and the login isn't working." "I changed it," I said simply. Silence. Complete silence for several seconds. Why would you do that? She asked carefully. Because it's my account, I replied. I only gave you access for the emergency. The emergency is over. But we're still helping you manage things, she said. I don't need help managing my own money, I said. Her tone shifted, became harder. After everything we've done for you this past week, this is how you thank us. I didn't respond to that. I just waited. Fine, she said finally. If that's how you want to be. She hung up before I could say anything else. I stared at my phone, my heart pounding but my hands steady. The first real boundary had been set. That evening, both of my parents showed up at my apartment unannounced. My mother's eyes were red when I opened the door. How could you? She said immediately, her voice breaking. How could you shut us out like that? My father stood beside her, his face hard. We're your parents, Brianna. I know, I said quietly. We sacrificed for you your entire life, my mother continued, tears spilling over. We gave you everything. And now, when we need a little help, a little support, you lock us out of your account like we're criminals. I didn't say you were criminals, I replied calmly. Then what are you saying? My father demanded. I looked at them both, these people who raised me, who I had trusted without question for 29 years. I'm saying the money needs to be returned to my account. That money was used for family purposes, my father said. Important investments that will benefit all of us. Then you can return it when those investments pay off, I said. My mother's tears stopped abruptly. Her expression changed. You don't trust us. You took $18,000 without asking me, I said. While I was unconscious in a hospital. We had permission, she insisted. No, I corrected gently. You had access. For emergencies. That's not the same as permission to take everything. They both stared at me like I had become a stranger. After they left, I spent the evening composing an email. I wrote it carefully, professionally, keeping all emotion out of my words. To Mom and Dad. I'm writing to formally request the return of the funds transferred from my savings account during my hospital stay. The total amount taken was $17,916. I understand you used this money for a business investment. I'm asking that you create a repayment plan to return these funds within 90 days. I've attached documentation of the transfers for your reference. Please let me know how you plan to proceed. Brianna. I read it 3 times before sending. Clear. Documented. Reasonable. The email sat in their inbox for 2 days. Neither of them responded. On the 3rd day my mother called. That email was very cold, she said. It was clear, I replied. You're treating us like strangers, she said. Like we're some business associates instead of your family. I need the money back, I said simply. We don't have it, she admitted finally. It's invested. We can't just pull it out immediately. Then create a payment plan, I said. She didn't respond to that. She just said she needed to go and hung up. The email stayed in their inbox, unacknowledged, officially ignored. Over the next few weeks, I stopped sharing details about my life with them. I stopped answering questions about work, about my apartment, about my daily routine. When they called, I kept conversations short and surface level. How are you feeling? Good. How's work? Fine. Anything new? Not really. They felt the loss immediately. The loss of access, of information, of the closeness we used to have. My mother especially seemed confused by the shift. You're being distant, she said during one call. This isn't like you. I'm just busy, I replied. Too busy for your own mother. Too busy to pretend everything is normal, I said quietly. There was a long pause. So you're punishing us? No, I said. I'm protecting myself. After that conversation, the calls became less frequent, the texts shorter. They were starting to understand that things had changed fundamentally, but they still didn't seem to grasp why. Control was slipping through their fingers, and they didn't know how to get it back. 6 weeks after my surgery, my mother started pushing for closeness again. She suggested lunch, coffee, a shopping trip. Her messages were cheerful, casual, like nothing had happened. "I miss you," she texted one morning. "Can we please spend some time together?" I agreed to meet for coffee on a Saturday afternoon. We sat across from each other in a cafe near my apartment, and she smiled at me like everything was normal. "You look good," she said. "Fully recovered." "I am," I said. "We've missed having you around," she continued. "Your father asks about you constantly." I sipped my coffee and waited. There was something coming. I could feel it in how carefully she was choosing her words. "Actually," she said after a moment, "there's something I wanted to talk to you about. A small favor." There it was. "What kind of favor?" I asked. "We're having some temporary cash flow issues," she said lightly. "The business investment is taking longer to pay off than we expected. We just need a little help covering this month's expenses." She needed money. That's why she had pushed for this meeting. That's why her tone had changed from angry to sweet over the past week. She needed leverage, and she thought I would give it to her. "I can't help with that," I said simply. My mother's face fell. "Can't or won't?" "Both," I replied. "After everything." "Mom," I interrupted gently, "the money you took from me was everything I had saved. I'm rebuilding now. I can't give you anything else." "We're not asking for much," she said, her voice rising slightly. "Just enough to get through this month." "What about the money from my account?" I asked. "Where did that go?" She hesitated. "It's invested." "Like I said." "In what specifically?" "A franchise opportunity," she admitted. "A really good one. But it takes time to become profitable." I nodded slowly, understanding clicking into place. They had used my emergency fund as seed money for their retirement dream. Without asking me. Without telling me. Without any plan to pay it back. "I hope it works out," I said. "But I can't help you right now." We finished coffee in uncomfortable silence. When we parted ways, she hugged me, but it felt mechanical, distant. That evening I found a deposit in my account. $500 with a note. First payment. More coming soon. No apology. No explanation. Just money appearing like that would fix everything. I accepted it quietly and updated my records. Over the next month, 2 more payments appeared. $300. Then $200. Small amounts that barely made a dent in what they owed, but enough to show they were starting to panic. My mother's calls became more frequent again, but her tone was different now. Less confident. More strained. "Did you see the payment?" she asked during one call. "I did," I said. "We're trying," she said. "You have to understand we're trying." "I know," I replied. "But you're not making this easy," she continued, her voice cracking. "You won't talk to us. You won't visit. You act like we're monsters." "I act like someone whose trust was broken," I said. "So you're never going to forgive us?" she asked. "I don't know yet," I answered honestly. She started crying then. Not the angry tears from before, but something that sounded more like fear. Real, genuine fear that she had pushed too hard and lost something she couldn't get back. "I didn't think you'd react like this," she whispered. "I thought you would understand eventually." "Understand what?" I asked. "That we were trying to secure our future. Your future too. By taking mine," I said quietly. She didn't have an answer for that. 2 months after my surgery, my aunt called me. Not to check on my health, but to ask about something she had heard. "Your mother said you guys are having some financial disagreement," she said carefully. "Is everything okay?" "Depends on what she told you," I replied. My aunt hesitated. "She said you were upset about some money they borrowed during your hospital stay. But she also said you had agreed to help with their business and then changed your mind." I let out a slow breath. Of course that was the story. I had agreed. I had offered. I was the one who backed out of a promise. "That's not quite what happened," I said. "What did happen?" my aunt asked. So I told her. All of it. The transfers while I was unconscious. The amount taken. The business investment I knew nothing about. The refusal to create a real repayment plan. My aunt was quiet for a long time after I finished. I had no idea, she finally said. Your mother made it sound so different. She's good at that, I replied. Word spread after that conversation. Not because I told everyone, but because my aunt told her sister, who told her daughter, who told other relatives. The real version of events began circulating alongside my mother's version. And when people compared the two stories, my mother's narrative stopped making sense. 3 months after everything started, my mother called with another request. Her voice was carefully controlled, but I could hear desperation underneath. We need to make next month's payment on the franchise, she said. It's a big one. We're short about $3,000. I can't help with that, I said immediately. Brianna, please, she said. If we miss this payment, we lose everything we've invested. That's not my responsibility, I replied. But it's your money that started this, she argued. If we lose the investment, you'll never get fully repaid. I understand that, I said. But I can't keep funding your choices. This is different, she insisted. This is an emergency. No, I said firmly. An emergency is when someone has a ruptured appendix. This is a business risk that didn't pay off as quickly as you hoped. There was a long, heavy silence. So that's it, she asked finally. You're just going to let us fail. I'm going to let you figure this out on your own, I said. The same way I've been figuring everything out since you took my money. She hung up without saying goodbye. That single word, no, seemed to land harder than anything else I had said over the past 3 months. Because it meant I was no longer available as a solution to their problems. After that phone call, communication dropped to almost nothing. My mother stopped calling weekly, stopped texting cheerfully, stopped inviting me to family events. The distance wasn't something I created with drama or ultimatums. It just existed now, like a natural consequence of broken trust. Without my cooperation, their financial situation became more difficult. The franchise struggled. They had to take out a loan. My father went back to working full-time instead of partially retired like he had planned. I heard all of this through relatives, not from them directly. Family gatherings became awkward. My mother would make comments about ungrateful children. My father would sit silent and bitter. Other relatives didn't know quite what to say. Some of them sided with my parents. Family is supposed to help each other, one uncle said. You're being pretty harsh. Others understood. They had no right to take your money, my aunt said privately. I'm proud of you for standing up for yourself. But I didn't engage in debates. I didn't defend my choices or attack theirs. I just maintained the boundary I had set and let everything else fall where it needed to. No drama. Just distance. 6 months after my surgery, a final payment arrived in my account. Exactly $7,416. The remaining balance of what they had taken. With that transfer, my emergency fund was fully repaid. Every dollar accounted for. Every cent returned. There was no message with the payment. No phone call. No explanation. I stared at the balance on my screen, waiting to feel something. Relief maybe. Or satisfaction. Or closure. Instead I felt nothing at all. The money was back, but that didn't undo what had happened. It didn't rebuild trust that had been shattered. It didn't erase the knowledge that the people I loved most had seen my vulnerability as an opportunity. I transferred the money into a new savings account at a different bank. One they had no information about. One they could never access. Then I sent them a brief email. I received the final payment. Thank you for returning what was taken. I hope your business succeeds. That was all. No reconciliation. No invitation to repair our relationship. Just acknowledgement and distance. My mother didn't respond. Neither did my father. The silence felt permanent this time. A year after my surgery, I saw my parents at a family wedding. We were civil, polite. We made small talk about weather and work and nothing meaningful. My mother looked older somehow. Tired. My father barely met my eyes. The franchise had failed 6 months after they finally paid me back. They sold it at a loss and were still paying off the loans they had taken to keep it running. Other family members whispered about it. About how they had made such a risky decision. About how they had damaged their relationship with their daughter over a business that didn't even work out. My mother had lost more than money. She had lost trust, credibility, and control over the narrative. People no longer automatically believed her version of events. When she tried to explain what had happened, relatives asked uncomfortable questions. They wanted details. They wanted proof. And she couldn't provide either without admitting what she had done. I didn't gloat. I didn't bring it up. I didn't rehash old arguments. Their consequences existed without any input from me. Their choices had created their own downfall, entirely because they thought they were entitled to my resources, my money, my trust. Now, 2 years later, my life looks completely different. I'm healthy, strong, fully recovered from the surgery that started everything. I'm financially secure. My emergency fund has been rebuilt, larger than before. I learned to invest properly, to protect my assets, to plan for real emergencies. I'm independent in ways I never was before. I make decisions without seeking approval. I set boundaries without guilt. I understand the difference between helping family and being used by them. My parents and I speak occasionally. Brief calls on holidays. Text messages on birthdays. But the closeness we once had doesn't exist anymore. And I've accepted that. Some people think I'm too harsh. That I should have forgiven and moved on. That family is supposed to stick together no matter what. But I learned something important during those months in the hospital and after. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. Doesn't mean allowing the same people to hurt you again. I don't need their permission to protect myself anymore. I don't need their approval to live my life on my terms. And that freedom is worth more than any amount of money. Looking back now, I realize my parents thought my illness made me vulnerable. Weak. Easy to control. They saw me lying in that hospital bed and decided it was the perfect time to take what they wanted. They assumed I would be too sick, too distracted, too grateful for their help to notice or care. But their timing was their biggest mistake. Because my illness didn't make me weak. It made me observant. It forced me to pay attention to the people around me in ways I never had before. I didn't seek revenge. I didn't try to punish them or make their lives difficult. I simply stopped absorbing the cost of their choices. I stopped letting their problems become my emergencies. I stopped allowing their mistakes to drain my resources. I stopped pretending that love meant sacrificing myself for their benefit. When they took my emergency fund, they thought they were securing their future. Instead, they lost access to their daughter. Not because I cut them off dramatically. Not because I made big declarations or demands. But because they showed me who they were when they thought I couldn't see clearly. And once I saw it, I couldn't unsee it. And when I finally walked away from that version of family, I took my peace with me.